This is Project Mystery Mould, where I let the mixing cup of fate decide what our next project is going to be. Every time I get a new haul of moulds, I get them on a piece of paper and put them in the mixing cup of fate. Then we'll stir them up and pour one out to find out what our next project will be.
And today's project is an oval tray. And every tray should have a matching bowl, so we're going to do 2 oval things today. If you've been following for a while now, you'll know that I've had this vision of an oval tray done in this Neon Aquarium Gravel. So you could imagine my absolute surprise when I pulled out that oval tray and I was like, yes, today is the day. So the plan was to use some deep pour resin, mix in a whole bunch of neon gravel, and then pour. Simple plan, but apparently I like to make things super difficult. So the tray pouring goes off relatively without a hitch. I am just placing the gravel in the tray now as carefully as possible and making sure that everything is going down into all the crevices. Making sure that there's no sort of white spaces on the bottom there so that it's not entirely see-through. Spreading the gravel out as evenly as possible and making sure that we've got a nice little layer, as well as it's not too tall sticking up the bottom of the mold, otherwise it will make our tray all wobbly and wonky. So let me explain a little bit about what's about to happen. At the start of the video, you saw me pour a buttload of resin and mix the gravel in the cup with that resin. So what I was trying to do was eliminate as many bubbles from the gravel as possible. If you mix your gravel with your resin to start with, it kind of gives it a layer of resin around each little gravel piece. And then when you pour it later on, it's supposed to have less air bubbles. So my intentions were good, but my execution was lacking, because I misjudged how shallow these molds actually are. And so every time I poured gravel out, resin came along with it and overfilled. You can see me here go, what the hell? And then tried to damage control by trying to get out all of the excess resin from the top there with my silicone measuring cup. I had to keep doing that as I added more. Obviously, it displaced the resin in there, so I had to keep getting the overflow out over and over again, then topping up with gravel, then getting the overflow, then topping up with gravel, and rinse and repeat. You can clearly see the super large puddle of resin forming there just at the base of that mold on the table. And even after all of that overpour, I still had leftover resin, so I took a vase mold and tried it the other way around this time. So gravel in first, resin on top, lots of tapping, lots of massaging to make sure everything is in place and to eliminate air bubbles. And let's see the comparison between the 2 methods at the end. So we've got the gravel in, we've got the resin in, and everything is just chilling for the next couple of days. It is demolding day, everybody's favorite day. So we start with our oval tray, and everything looks surprisingly really good. Aside from some of that overpour mess that got stuck on the mold, everything is nice and neat, nice and tidy. You can clearly see the gravel. It just looks so beautiful. Now, on to the main offender here. This guy actually turned out amazing, despite the overpour. The gravel was distributed nice and evenly. There were no large gaps and very minimal air bubbles from what I could see. And lastly, onto our overpour mold here, this bonus little silicone mold vase that we pulled out to catch some of that extra resin. And this guy turned out okay too, but surprisingly, this method allowed for more air bubbles than the other method that gave us a huge big puddle. All right, let's talk about these molds. So I got these molds from harryandwilma.com.au. They are wonderful. They've done their job really well. So it was time to have a really close look at the air bubbles in each piece to see which method worked best. So on the vase, there were a whole lot of air bubbles on the outside, on the inside, everywhere. On the tray and on the bowl, they were pretty air bubble free. There were maybe one or two on the corners, really, really slight ones, but you can't really see them. The only thing was the gravel sticking up on the top, or on the bottom actually, which made everything a little bit rickety-rockety. So what I'm going to have to do is put a bit of a coat on the bottom, or I'm also thinking maybe we can pop some feet. I don't know, something to just get everything nice and level on the bottom. So in terms of air bubbles, adding your gravel to your resin first definitely is the way to go. However, just don't pour too much resin to start with. Considering I have had this as a vision in my head for such a long time, it has turned out far more beautiful than I ever could have imagined. I am so in love with these pieces.